Hey guys, somebody's gone here. We're going to be watching the most consistent team during duos in FNCS from NA East. Who is that? Well, it's none other than Acorn and Jahq. These two have been extremely consistent all throughout the 4 weeks of qualifiers. And what do you know? The last week they wound up winning 2 games. So we're going to watch both of those 2 games. And what I want to talk about specifically is their coordinated high ground retakes, their safe plays from 4th zone to 7th zone, and then how they play the game as a duo. There's going to be a couple other points that I want to touch on, but the high ground retakes, or high ground takes, I guess it's not a retake because they didn't have it. Their safe plays, the rotations and pads together, and then there's going to be a couple other points, but let's go ahead, jump right in. And from 4th zone on, they basically always sit in a metal box. This is important because it gives them a lot of protection against any kind of focusing or projectiles. I guess RPGs are the only kind of explosive in the game right now, but if you're sitting in fully built metal, you have little to nothing to worry about besides the double heavy snipe. But even so, if the metal is fully built, you really can't see what's going on the other side of it, so it gives you protection. One thing I've noticed these guys do, and I don't think that it may or may not be on purpose, but when they're sitting in these metal boxes, they only open up one way. And then before they open up in another direction, they're going to let that one piece of metal build quite a bit before they open up and peek on another side. So it's not going to leave them vulnerable to someone spraying if they start to focus back after they were shooting at someone, or another team decides to focus them, so on and so forth. But we'll see this. This is something they do also during mid to early game. This is not what I'm talking about. Very coordinated pads. And again, it's after 4th zone. We're basing in metal. We're going to let it build before we take peeks. And we're going to be chilling. They typically will stay mid-ground between 4th to 7th zone. And then around 6th to 8th is when they're going to go for their high ground take. We'll see that here. They do it in a couple different ways. This game is different than the last game, which shows their flexibility. And it's also something that you should look out for, is know how to take different peaks. Or not peaks, sorry. Know how to take high ground in different ways, regardless of what your position is, your materials are, your health, and things like that. But I would recommend having a good bit of materials, at least 200 total builds, and a minimum of 500 between your two partners, just so if you're taking high ground, you're not griefing your entire game. You can hold it, you can take advantage of it. But see, they're just sitting in metal. They know they have Storm Surge. They don't need anything. They're looking around when need be, checking what's going on around them, but there's no need to take unnecessary peeks. Don't need damage here. Don't necessarily need a kill. They're just trying to survive, get through this zone because they have a plan to win the game. Splitting heals here is always a good strat, making sure you're both healthy. And this is somewhat underrated, but I don't know that enough people do this. And we'll watch this once again. But let's go back. They pad in zone, not necessarily together. Jahq starts tarping. Jahq. Don't know exactly if I'm saying it right, so please let me know if it's Jahq or Jahq. I'm going to say Jahq. But let's go back. This is one of the little things that make a difference, right? Because they could have easily padded from any of the boxes they were already in and just got cucked because the pad was underneath something. You see he builds out a box, looks around him, makes sure up top's good, and then they pad. They're not padding immediately. They're not rushing the pad. They're making sure that they're good, and that they're not going to hit their head on something and ruin their whole pad. But just a little point here. And Jahq is normally going to be the one that tarps for them. Acorn will shortly be right here. They're really, really good at sticking together, even when they fall apart. Typically, it's not too long before the duo gets back together with one another. And here's the high ground take. So let's watch this again. That's not what I wanted. They're both going to look up at the same time and focus high ground. We see Jahq's right here. Acorn's coming. Newell and Newell's duo are going to be the team on high ground. And after this server lag, we'll see. So Acorn's in a position. Acorn's in a position where he can... Oh, my... Sometimes this game just doesn't want to cooperate, but we're good. We're looking at what we want anyway. Acorn's in a position. They see high ground is literally held up by one build. They're not together. Jahq may be looking, probably is looking, and seeing the builds behind. So either this is a different team, or these two, even if they are a duo, are totally separated. So knock him down. Sorry. Somewhat difficult. Knock him down, and boom, here's the height take. Acorn's going to get slightly punished for that by Newell's duo, but it's not that big a deal. They get the knock on Newell, and these two have an easy high ground. And from here, it's just clinical. I mean, we'll watch this out, but these guys on high ground know what they're doing. They play it well. There's going to be one contest. It's not really these guys. It does wind up getting Acorn some unnecessary damage because it was trying to prevent people from coming up on them, but tons of heals between the two. And let's go into gameplay. Just watch this out. These guys are simply chilling on height. They split their weapon type, so even though they're very low on ammo, at least it's two different kinds of builds. So Acorn has small ammo, and then Jahq has medium ammo. So again, using the most they can. Each team can get the most they can. One little thing, Acorn always carries a harpoon. Literally every game that I watch from these guys, he's got a harpoon, which is very important for refreshes, very important for potential mid-game fishing strategies. These guys always hold fish as well. So if they go through the center of the map, they go through a river, they can always get a potential for extra loot. And here's the refresh. We see them, as soon as they see they're contested, go immediately up. They're focusing together, still working as a duo. And see even more materials come during late game. If you're not focusing, if you're not carrying a grappler, then you're not going to be able to take advantage of those kills on high ground. That's another advantage to carrying the grappler, is you can hold height and still get refreshes without giving up your position. Even though he had to go down there, he didn't necessarily need those minis, as we'll see here. These guys, it's just clinical now. They're holding high ground, even though they're low on materials. It's just focusing everyone below, letting them do the work. These guys were contested once, quickly held off that contest, and besides that, it really wasn't an issue. Like, this was, from the moment they took high ground, a fairly easy game. And I don't want to say that in a bad way, that it was easy, because it's really not. If you've tried to do this yourself, these guys do a great job sticking together, focusing, holding height. Even with little ammo, they focus the people they need to stop contests. And then when someone does contest, quickly punish them, make sure it doesn't happen, dissuade a team from doing it again. And let's just look at this last play here, because not everyone does this well, because you could hold height and not finish a game well. So here, 2-on-1, even if it was a 2-on-2, they understand the situation. They have the advantage. These guys have tons of health. Like, at this point in the game, you know that the other player isn't going to have as much health as you, so you have the health advantage. Jahq is going to pressure him from above. Acorn is going to pressure from the side. And NPen has no chance. I mean, regardless of how good you are, if you're getting shot from above, someone's pushing in your face, good luck. So that was the first game. It's actually game 4. We're going to go ahead and watch their second win. I believe they won game 6. And they land at a slightly different spot, but we're not going to focus on the early or mid-game. Simply just look at their high ground take, their strategy essentially from 4th zone forward. So let's go to the next one. All right, here we go. Here's game 6 from these two. Not really going to watch this mid-game here. Just want to show you how safely they rotate, knowing that wood is easily replaceable. And typically, or not always, but if advantageous, they choose early rotate versus a late rotate. And just notice the builds. Like, they're taking no chances getting tagged. They're going fairly early here because they know their side of the zone's pretty congested, and then they also see the builds in zone. With this duo, if there was no congestion as far as builds in zone before this rotation, they would be patient and let people rotate before them, shoot at them while they're rotating so they build for them, and then it's a fairly easy rotate. But they're not going to wait till the very last moment, because then you're leaving yourself on the edge of zone, and you don't want to have to play both zone and players while trying to build in. But I'd say minimum, like about now, 15 seconds is enough time to move into zone, as long as nothing happens while you're rotating. But we'll go ahead, skip in. Here, again, another point. 4th zone, building in metal, taking no chances. In this double heavy snipe meta, you don't really want to be stuck in a brick box, especially not a wood box. It allows visibility. And let's slow this down just because I think this is a cool play. Happens a little bit earlier, but we'll see. They let the metal build, and this is going to be their peak box. The other one is going to be their safety box. So they knock a player here and edit it. Acorn grabs the guy, makes sure that his teammate can't take advantage of the knock, steals him. They get all the loot. The guy's teammate that they knock gets none, and boom, that guy wound up dying for some other reason, so even more loot. Get tons of loot here. There's going to be over 500 extra brick, extra metal. They're totally set. These guys have tons of materials. And Jahq's going to go ahead, build in. He's going to use all the extra mats, get in zone, and they're still basically full materials. Absolutely no issue here. Full mats on 50-50, building in brick, but wait, got to be in metal. It's safer. You can build a tunnel, and they typically will build a tunnel and chill in the brick, but having that metal box fully built definitely deters teams from trying to shoot at you or double heavy snipe you, because they don't have that vision. In brick and wood, you can kind of see through it, so it gives other people vision. And they're even going to rotate their cones to prevent any kind of double heavy snipe anyway, say it were going to happen. So here, they're going to pad looking. Let's watch Jahq, because he normally makes the calls. Again, just looking behind them before they decide to fully rotate. But again, looking up, making sure they have the pad space to drop it down. And honestly, they're probably going to wait for other people to start going. And once they hear people padding, then they go. So that way they don't get tagged. And let's watch from Acorn's perspective. boom, land right on top of one another. They're going to cheap tarp. Acorn will close it off, but they're not in zone here, so you don't want to take a ton of materials tarping when you're not in zone. But now they're ahead. They're on the front edge. They want to control this space, so they're going to ramp tarp in. It gives them a lot of control over this space. You're on front edge, so it's less angles and directions you have to worry about. An important thing is Acorn is always closing the tarp behind him. You see all the time people get screwed because they left the tarp open behind them. Someone's in their tunnel, and then they get lasered because they're focusing on the front end of the tunnel as opposed to the back. But again, another example here using the full builds of metal. They kind of get cucked on the rotation with the pad, but they were trying to short pad anyway, so they weren't going too far. They stick together, get in through some old builds, some other people's builds, and once again, this is something I should have brought up earlier, but they're always tunneling on moving zones on front side. They use their pads to get ahead of zone on these moving and get to the front so there's less to worry about. Kind of put themselves in a corner and give themselves, some freedom to move. But here we see again the harpoon. Key. Getting those refreshes in mid-game, getting the refreshes in end-game. The harpoon gives you flexibility. And just giving your tarper some more room to move, more room to do stuff. And here comes the high ground retake. So, 8th zone. Both have floppers, 4 floppers apiece. No worries. They see that Agers is by himself. Agers drops down anyway. Doesn't even contest high ground because he's probably losing it to little materials, or he didn't want to be on height as a solo when a duo contests him. But these guys essentially just go into storm, flopper play it, and it's an easy freaking high ground take. They're not even contested, and they even get a free kill from Agers, who drops down after giving up height. Easy kills all around, and at this point, there's only 5 people left. But once again, let's watch them close this out as a duo. You hear the grappler, so you got to be careful. Jahq getting on one edge, and they're going to pressure this player from 2 different angles. Once again, so much more difficult. So much more difficult to even fight back when you're being pressured from 2 different angles. Zate's getting minigunned, but Jahq gets closer to his teammate because he doesn't want to leave Acorn down alone. And you probably have the health advantage, and with the 2 of you, you definitely have a health advantage. Zate tries making a play. They're still both focusing him, and good luck winning this 2-on-1. Nice flick shot there, but even if you're the best player in the world, it's going to be tough to win a well-executed 2-on-1. So GG's to these guys. Jahq, Acorn, 2 of the best right now in NAEs. These guys are absolutely killing it. Go ahead. I know Acorn streams some, so go ahead, check that out. Follow them on Twitter. I'll link their stuff below. And thank you guys for watching me. I know I'm only watching other people explaining what they do, but if you're getting to this point of the video, I appreciate you watching. I really appreciate the support. Feel free to tell your friends, like, subscribe, follow, whatever the hell you got to do. Thank you guys, and I will see you next time.